Now we're going to move over to the Twitter files because, again, we've been covering this since the very first one. I've done some on here. I've done some on RBN, or Nick and CJ have done some on RBN. But nevertheless, we've been covering it. And I've been trying to stay up to date with it. Now, this one in particular, this one has to deal with Adam Schiff, Mr. Russiagator himself. Yes, him. So Matt Taibbi dropped this release here. The Twitter files, supplemental more Adam Schiff ban requests and de-amplification. Now, let's all remember, Adam Schiff is a politician in DC. Why is Adam Schiff telling Twitter what they can and cannot have on their own site? Do you see how dangerous this is becoming now? Let's go on. Staff of House Democrat Adam Schiff wrote to Twitter quite often, asking that tweets be taken down. This important use of taxpayer resources involved an ask about a Peter Douche, which was a parody account, parody photo of Joe Biden. The DNC made the same request, and you can see Matt Taibbi included a screenshot of that here. It says Sloppy Joe was trending. I wonder if it's because of this. You can tell it's a deep fake because Jill Biden isn't covering for him. So there's that image there. And then he has another screenshot here that says, has the email included here that says the DNC reached out this morning about a different tweet with the same image, but different textual context. You see what's happening here? Let me go on. There it is there. The real issue was that Donald Trump retweeted the Biden pic. To its credit, Twitter refused to remove it, with Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth saying it had obvious humorous intent. And any reasonable observer, apparently not a Schiff staffer, could see it was doctored. And here's an example of a screenshot here where there's an email again from Yoel Roth where he says this is pretty clearly edited, GIF created with humorous intent. Any reasonable observer could identify that it's doctored. And he goes on to say that here. So here was something that was obviously, it wasn't meant to be serious. Like anyone can tell that. But still, nevertheless, the DNC wanted it to be removed. Let's go on. Schiff staffer Jeff Lowenstein didn't give up, claiming there was a slippery slope concern here. Now, here's a screenshot of that email from Jeff. Jeff goes on to say, we're prepared to accept that it doesn't fall under the policy given, but there's a slippery slope. This is very tiny writing, excuse me. And I think it bears further explanation from Twitter why that is the case. So, oh my God. Here's the response from Lauren Culbertson to Jeff. Thanks for the follow-up. I'm happy to walk you through our policy. Would you be available for a quick phone call today or tomorrow, perhaps 1:30 or 4 p.m. today or anytime tomorrow afternoon? So again, why is Twitter having to explain a freaking parody photo? Twitter also refused requests from bans of content about Schiff and his staff, e.g., complete suppression of any and all search results about Mr. Misko and other committee staffers. Twitter said this would not be conceivable. Here's a screenshot here where it says, for their list asked demands in the attached PDF, many fall outside of any remediations available under the cited policies. For example, a sweeping removal of any and all content about Mr. Misko and other committee staff from its service to include quotes, retweets, and reactions to that content, as well as complete suppression of any and all search results of Mr. Misko and committee staff is not something that would be able to be done here, or is conceivable by any active policies I know of. This is what was going on all along. Telling them to remove jokes. Ay. Even when Twitter didn't suspend an account, that didn't mean they didn't act. Schiff's office repeatedly complained about the QAnon related activity that were often tweets about other matters, like the identity of the Ukraine whistleblower or the Steele dossier. And here's a screenshot here. Obviously, this is not in English. I apologize. But for those of you who can translate this, feel free to do so. And then he has another screenshot here from this account, The Goddess, that says that would be fair, but it does appear that the bad apples need to be dispersed first so they don't sabotage him. Remember good General Petrus, yada, yada. They go on to talk about Flynn. And then down here, she said he probably would, but you don't always know about the intentions of the people you see, like Eric C. Morella and Sean Misko. So there's those examples there. We come out here. Oopsie. I don't know how I'm trying to get out of here. I got stuck. Whee! Okay. Moving on to the next one. Twitter policy at the time did not ban QAnon, but de-amplified such accounts. About the batch of the tweets that included those above, Twitter execs wrote, "We can internally confirm that a number of the accounts flagged are already included in this de-amplification." And here is a screenshot of that email here where it says, "Hey, all, circling back here, we've reviewed the flag accounts and content and actioned one user for ban evasion, but the remaining were not suspendable under this policy." So here is Twitter coming back telling them, technically, according to Twitter's policy, they could not suspend the other accounts. As described in our coordinated harmful activity policy, our current stance towards QAnon on Twitter is not a suspension-based policy. Engaging in QAnon-related activity on Twitter results in de-amplification, meaning that we don't actively recommend the accounts in the product, and we downrank but not remove their content when they are engaged in swarming. We can internally confirm that a number of the accounts flagged are already included in this de-amplification. We do ban accounts designated under coordinated harmful activity if they do push QAnon for multiple accounts, or if they're evading a ban, which was the case for flagged users. Okay, so let's go on. Schiff's office had a concern about de-amplification, though. It might make it harder for law enforcement to track the offending tweeters. Let's read this again, you guys. Schiff's office had a concern about de-amplification. It might make it harder for law enforcement to track the offending tweeters. Why do you need to get law enforcement involved? Whew. Boy, I tell you, we appreciate greatly. So he goes on to say, we are curious whether any de-amplification measures implemented by Twitter's enforcement team, which we appreciate greatly, could impede the ability of law enforcement to search Twitter for potential threats about Misko and other HPSCI staff. I don't really think it was necessarily about the threats per se. I really don't. I think that This was just another reason to try to involve the police state to silence people. Like, this is just ridiculous. So there's a screenshot here. I'm not going to go into all of this, but it talks about an alias for reporting problematic tweets. And it says that Lauren mentioned creating an alias to which we could flag content of concern for potentially quicker review response. We'd love to take you up on that kind of offer. Additional scrutiny of accounts of concern. We would appreciate it if you would please consider additional scrutiny of 2 accounts, as social media scans by U.S. Capitol Police indicated a direct correlation between these 2 accounts tweeting about Misco and subsequent harassment and threats targeting Misco. So there's a comment here where it says at Greg Rubini, this account has added 20,000 followers in the past month and currently has approximately 160,000 followers. Now, that's according to the public reports. It's a well-known and long-established QAnon account. So that's one example of an account they were asking to target. It says, in light of the repeated violations of Twitter policies by Greg Rubini, it's unclear why Twitter has not taken action to suspend this account. But remember what they said in the previous tweet was that according to their policy, those accounts were not to be suspended based on the policy that Twitter had in place. This is crazy, man. There was another account mentioned, Paul Sperry. This account has 331,000 followers. He's tweeted about Misco at least 40 times in the past year. Goes on to say here, as we discussed, and in the light of repeated violations of Twitter policies by Paul Sperry, it's unclear why Twitter has neither suspended this account nor labeled its content to be false. Question about de-amplification. We are curious whether any de-amplification measures implemented by Twitter's law enforcement team, which we greatly appreciate, could inadvertently impede the ability of law enforcement to search Twitter for potential threats about Misco and HPSCI staff. So that's what they were basically trying to do. Like, they really wanted them to go ahead and suspend those accounts, because by de-amplifying those accounts, they're saying it would make it more difficult for law enforcement to basically track them. Let's go on. Final note here from Matt Taibbi. For more, watch Schellenberger MD, Barry Weiss, LH Fang, I think that's Lee Fang, David Zwig, and of course, Alex Beringson and others. Oh, and others. So more people are going to be added to this. Twitter had no editorial input. Searches were carried out by third parties, so the documents could be limited. So Matt Taibbi has been getting attacked left and right, which I've told you guys about this ever since he started releasing this information from the Twitter files. Now, this comment here was pretty interesting by Nick. He said, one thing is clear about what needs to happen to Adam Schiff due to his serious breach of his fiduciary duty and his gross number 1A constitutional violations. It's just 3 simple words. Lock him up after he's impeached, of course. So here's the problem. The fact that you have a politician, keep in mind, it's not like Adam Schiff is president. The fact that you have a politician in Congress telling Twitter which accounts to remove from their platform, that is very problematic. And by the way, how many people knew behind the scenes that Adam Schiff was doing this? How many people knew? How many people, you guys tell me, how many people in mainstream media is talking about these Twitter files in a legit way? I don't mean talking about him saying, oh yeah, don't listen to it. That's just Russia stuff. Don't listen to it. I mean, actually going through them the way that those of us on independent media have, and seriously talking about what they have found. And I bring this up because Adam Schiff is one of the people, when we talked about who was considering running for Senate for California, for Dianne Feinstein's seat, Adam Schiff is one of the people that has mentioned he may be thinking about it. What's that, Deneen? Nobody in the mainstream is talking about it. I'm checking to see if anyone else mentioned the same thing. Let me see. Space Baby said, I had no idea, Sabby, but I'm not shocked. Zombie, which shows they're all in on it. There you go. Whoever said my mom watches MSM and she hadn't even heard of it. This is what I figured. This is exactly what I figured. Now, when you connect this to the Glenn Greenwald story that we just talked about, it has become more and more apparent that we are starting to live in an authoritarian state. But I wonder, is anything going to be said to Adam Schiff? Probably not. With all of the information that's come out from the Twitter files so far, I agree. I think this should be one big fat book. I think this should be a book. Hell, documentary maybe. Do what you need to do. But I want more people to know about this information because, like you guys just told me, not many people talking about this on mainstream media. So a lot of people probably still, especially if you don't have a Twitter account, a lot of people probably still don't know what is happening here. Instead, mainstream media is they're too busy. The MSNBC article I read for you Friday, they're too busy trying to smear Matt Taibbi since these Twitter files came out. Oh, how convenient. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be anything revealed in the Twitter's files about mainstream media's role. I'm waiting to see that. Bliss says, oh, I did say that part. I'm sorry. LB says the censorship is out of control. 100%. Steven says censorship by omission. And JB says, is the legacy left talking about it? I don't know. I've moved away from a lot of those people. But I will say, scary times. Definitely scary times.